there. We talked about visual content really briefly. YouTube and SlideShare are obviously the next big channels, even for a B2B context, of where perhaps you should be investing some of your budgets on. But look, play across all channels, but focus on one or two that gives you the biggest bang for your buck. Otherwise, you end up spreading your resources too thin. Quick examples of what we've done on Twitter. As you can see, the common approach around this is that we're really big on visuals, micrographics, and using these as microhooks to get people to even engage with our content. That's on Twitter. We obviously do a number of blog posts on LinkedIn. And also because LinkedIn offers a much higher quality targeting option where you can go into specific segments, job titles, companies, skill sets, and even who has gone to your same university. Publish on LinkedIn with intent to strike up a conversation. And we've actually done so. We have room to grow, but clearly if you have something that you feel that you want to strike up a conversation, clearly there's room for that, and it is possible. And on YouTube, we have had interviews with customers internally, animated graphics, how-to videos, a whole range of them. We're also on Instagram, and that's from a corporate perspective. And it really shows the humans behind the desk. What is it like to work for Thomson Reuters? A bit of checklist, I would say, like again, focus on 1 to 2 channels that shows the greatest response rates, because I think at this point of time, your goal is to discover the top 10%. Because I truly believe in this 90-10 rule, that 10% of your content will drive 90% of your reach and your engagement. So my point is bet big on your top 10%, because paid social is getting serious. This year into next, there is an expected increase of 14.7%. You can't be ignored if you haven't experimented with Twitter cards, LinkedIn-sponsored campaigns. If you're feeling adventurous, some of you are probably in that sphere already. Work with content placement partners such as Taboola, OneSpot, and Outbrain, which you can then embed your certain content articles in other partner websites as well. Obviously, all of us have this secret weapon as well. It is your crew, it is your employees, it is your sales frontline, because I believe that employees are the stitching of a company's brand story, and you can empower them to be able to tell your brand story, to build authenticity and trust. One of the partners we work with called GaggleAmp, it's an enterprise sharing tool. They're just saying that 60 employees can increase your company's reach by 1,000%. This is because the incremental number of followers, look, average you will have 300 to 400 followers. Some of the great social sellers have thousands of folks on their networks. So adding them up is usually 10 to 15 times larger than any of the largest company following. So it humanizes your brand, it builds trust. So I think it's our challenge to think about how we can work with sales teams to partner up with them instead of competing. Instead of saying, oh, you need to talk to compliance and legal, etc., work with small pilot groups to start to understand how you can push the barriers a little bit more every time. And this is just a visual effect on visual slide on how this social selling program has really helped us to have one piece of content spread out across the world. So rolling a social selling program, I would say the one thing that other than getting the buy-in of the sales managers is to listen to the sales teams, which helps reinforce the third or fourth point which we talked about just now. Understand and sit down with them what is the content that they want to share, they're likely to share with their own networks. A really interesting one which I was literally at a conversation with sales teams. They said, yeah, great, I really want to share stuff, but all of them had this one problem. I had a LinkedIn photo from 15 years ago, I need help. And that for me was like a eureka moment. I was like, oh, that's great, okay. We'll just organize a photo shoot of which we'll update all of your profiles with photos. And that was a little hook for them to go back to their LinkedIn profiles to start updating and improving their profiles as well. Last but not least, social is about collaboration. It can't be the job of a social media director or the social media team and leaving it to that person to say, oh, good luck. It needs to be in collaboration with IT departments. No team can do it alone. So it needs to be collaboration with sales, PR, IT, product development, and dare I say, even your customers as well, because obviously this is targeted at them. Because I think that if you can get this checklist right, what we are seeking to do day in, day out is that I want to be able to move fast, test, and scale. I'm creating pilots in different regions with different teams. I've started to gather all of these different tips because I'm literally running about 10 to 15 different pilots across the regions and to replicate it across different product lines, so on and so forth. So in summary, 8 tips to power up your social ship. Senior level engagement, start with 1, leverage on envy, the rest should follow. Obtain agreement on a list of 5 to 7 metrics. Find your top 10 performers in your content plan. Optimize for visual impact, play across all channels. Social needs to be embedded offline as well with your events, with your EDMs. It can't be seen as just a channel on your own. Bet big on your top 10%. Think about some paid social pilots. Social selling, your employee advocacy, your secret weapon that many organizations have not fully leveraged yet. Train, empower, expand that reach. Move fast, test, and scale across these collaboration approaches. So last 3 things, I've spent 2 more minutes. The future of B2B social media. I think that there'll be the end of social media. I've paused there for dramatic effect. Because I do think that social media will become part of everyday mass media, will become pervasive in corporate culture, because I think the millennials are already here. The millennials are part of the B2B. They're not all working in B2C companies. Google says that 40% of all business researchers today falls into the millennials group. And if you increase that a little bit, 70% of business researchers are under the age of 45. They are digitally resourceful. They are perhaps the first generation of digital natives. Obviously, we all are. And they're expecting that any organization who is in business today needs to be found online at their own terms on mobile. So it helps you to be discovered. Prediction number 2, talked about that really briefly. I think that the rise of the social selling champions, the sales leaders, the top sales leaders, the top sales teams will be the ones that have understood how to use the power and reach of social media, business networks such as LinkedIn, to help build their own brand profiles. It's all about them to elevate themselves from just product salesmen and saleswomen to thought leaders and trusted advisors in their space. Last prediction, I think that there will be a rise of mobile and desktop messaging apps. Obviously, we are really in that journey. It becomes commonplace within organization. I'm starting to see that WhatsApp, obviously we all use WhatsApp, is becoming a channel for community engagement for business as well. Users on WeChat, the Chinese equivalent of WhatsApp, is leading the way on that, and it cannot be simply ignored as just something that the Chinese people are using. And of course, Slack. You would have heard Symphony. We also own a messenger product on our own called Icon Messenger. They are all tools to help team collaboration. They're all touted to replace email. So look, in the last 35, 40 minutes, I've gone through quite a fair bit, from pigeons to ships. Please tweet a picture of what your B2B social ship looks like. I'd like to leave you a few questions. Again, if your business was a social ship, what would it look like? But importantly, what could it look like in a year's time? And also importantly, what is your role in helping to navigate your B2B social ship to where your customers is? Before I jump off, one more, it's getting cold, so I've got one more scarf to give. Can anyone tell me the term that was used to describe the anxiety of social media? Thank you very much, sir. So obviously on social, on Twitter and LinkedIn, please feel free to give me feedback, comments, questions. I don't know if there's time for any.
I think one of the wonderful things is that while I was tweeting while you were talking, you probably thought I was checking my emails, but I wasn't. So we now all have an excuse to look at our electronic equipment while somebody's talking. It's great that we get tweeting then. So time for, I think, a quick question before we move on.
This is good about the social media side, and that's really interesting here. On the Thomson Reuters side, your business, I don't know how long you've been there, but it was fundamentally disrupted by the digital way, the disaggregation of content. Mm-hmm. How has the adoption of social media within Thomson Reuters, been accepted by the old, we sell great big books, etc., all this content, and so that's acceptance. And secondly, has it had an impact, a real impact, against traditional business, that loss of media or loss of subscriber base because people can buy things bite-sized?
We have not seen a major impact. Our biggest competitors are still the Bloombergs and Dow Jones, etc. our battle lies in that field. However, obviously the rise of the fintech startups are a big trend and a big development that's starting to happen, and we can't be ignoring it. So there's a whole program and strategy, and a lot of banks are already doing this. A lot of partners, the likes of Google and LinkedIn, we have, even if we don't want to, and even there's no acceptance, we must be seen working with these startups to start to work with them, and not for them to suddenly take over and start to chip away to this, quite a giant structure. But in terms of digital acceptance, whether or not, I think the last 2 to 3 years has really been interesting. And look, I've only got this role officially as the Director of Social Media early on this year. For the last 2 to 3 years, there's always been like, oh, do we need someone for social media? And clearly what I really think about, how can I add value and prove the ROI of my role every week, every month into my senior management. They're starting to see that, yes, it can generate leads. Second, it starts to open up conversations. And thirdly, how can we use social media as a way to talk to new communities like developers. Developers are a big one for us. And it's one thing we know, that social media kind of works like hand in glove with developers. They are perhaps likely to be more likely on Twitter, so we're using on platforms like that. And we've organized a lot of events where we've invited them into our auditoriums like this, and they're furiously kind of live tweeting every single thing that's being shown. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. Great stuff. Well, thank you very much again for listening.